Hi team, welcome back. Welcome everyone to IT Learn. This is Karthik. Thank you so much for joining in. What we wanted to show you today was based on the orientation that we did yesterday. We are proceeding on the same topics of how we distinguish selenium versus Catalan versus Eniot versus UFD, and how these tools compare strongly with each other in terms of their utilities. Where do we apply them, and what kind of a frameworks that we could develop around them? So while we're trying to make this happen, team, it is very critical for us to learn each tool. So Selenium IDE by itself, we will talk a lot about the Selenium IDE, how to create and run tests in IDE. We will talk a lot about element identification. This by itself will take a day or day and a half or 1.5 to 2 hour session. So once we expertise element identification and understand why not to use record or run or element identified automatically. Okay, so this is a very key statement, team. What happens is when we talk about this record and run settings or tools in automation, there is a lot that goes on in terms of what the tool recognizes easily and puts in there, because a lot of these break over a period of time. So for tests to be very robust test automation, specifically automation test building, is all about smart element identification. All right. So how do we get there? So a lot of these would take about overall 4 to 5 sessions, team. We will be able to cover these. Then around, let's say, day 6, we will get into Catalan Studio. At that time, it'll be primarily pretty easy for us to understand how this tool works. And maybe day 9, we will get into Eniot for a day or two. Day 11, I think we can get into UFD. So do not install any tools. Do not install trial versions till asked to do so. All right. The reason this is important, team, is because you have a limited period trial version, so you don't want that to expire by the time you need to get into the practice. I'm going to save all of this into Google Drive. For now, I'll just temporarily put it into my desktop. This is 11th July, cell day 1. All right, great. So save. Now, so team, when we talk about automation testing, it is still part of the testing curriculum, right? So I will try and signify most of our representations out here in this Excel. Let me zoom in a little. So in this sheet, I will talk about first a manual test process, team, and how we go about building a manual QA process. All right. Once we understand this, then we will talk about how we can move to automation. Now, for us to do this, what happened to my Zoom? Okay, something is zoomed. All right, let's go. So when we talk about a simple manual QA process, team, what is it that we want to really look at? Software testing is a wide field, team. If you consider software testing, there are plenty of varieties of tests that we need to run the application against. So what does that do for us? So let's assume that this is an application under test. All right, an application under test, and that is what we call any application. When we start testing it, And once it comes to a stage where we are ready for testing it, we say that application is currently under test. And every application goes through something called as version changes. What do these version changes mean? There are new things that get added to the application as enhancement or new features. There are sometimes old ones that are deleted, and sometimes there are other sections that are changed. So the changes, there are new additions, there are old deletions. So in the layman terms, for us to understand team, let's take an application like, for example, WhatsApp. So video calling or group chatting, all that came over a period of time with new releases. So companies do this version changes anywhere from 1 week to sometimes 6 months. They don't do quick version changes because of the size of the projects and the amount of training the end user requires and so on. But these things happen constantly. If I had to test a product, if I test it once and I certify it, that is confirmed. But if the same product goes through a change, I need to retest the whole thing. All right. Retesting the entire application is what we call as regression testing team. And in specifically, what do we mean by regression testing? Let us say this is release 23.5. Okay. And then there is a small change to it. It has become release 23.6. Okay. And it has gone through these changes. Now, when it comes to regression testing, we are checking for old functionality, we are checking for new functionality, we're checking for changed, and we are looking for how they work together integrated. All of these things have to be redone, team. So if a manual testing effort, let us say, takes 500 hours, it's almost the same color. Huh? Let me take blue. If a manual testing effort, let's say, takes 500 hours for R23.5, for R23.6, it may take, let us say, 550 hours. Why? I have more things to test and I have to make sure that the old functionality that has been removed has actually been removed. So it's not that old functionality is removed, I do not have to test it. I still have to test it if it is removed or not. Yes, everyone? You agree with what I'm saying? Now, then comes in terms of how we do this regression testing. So it's a holistic testing again. So we have to repeat this. So if this is what manual testing is doing, automation testing must give or bring something new to the table. So what is it that automation testing then should do to me? What are the improvements that it can add for me? One, it can be more efficient. What is efficiency, team? This 550 hours can come down to 300 hours, maybe, or it can come down to 100 or 400 hours, depending on how efficient it is. It can be faster, that is, it can use fewer resources. Okay, like, number of systems of number of employees that are used and so on. Resources are less, and it becomes something that over a period of time is not that tough to maintain. Otherwise, we'll say it's, I'm taking too much time to maintain it rather than working on it. That is your efficiency, team, when it comes to automation testing. The next comes as reusability. What happens, see, for each of these, let us say there are 300 scripts in this, and a good framework has converted them into 50 scripts. All right. I take a lot of time in writing these 50 scripts. Okay. So there's a return on investment that is essential. So for the ROI to happen, I need to make it reusable. so that once I build it, I can reuse it again and again. I do not have to rely primarily on that, what a lot of changes have to go in. The third and more important thing is accuracy, team. So accuracy is the fact that it's like building a robot. If you're saying robot go straight and turn right, you want it to do that. It should not turn left. Manual sometimes, though slow, though is more expensive, can be much more better quality because we can slowly test it, but the effort is significant. So if I'm moving from manual to automation and I lose accuracy, there is no point, team. So my accuracy has to be better or more improved than a manual process. Look at this in any industry concept. All right. And quality as a concept did not come in IT team. It came in quality control more through the typical industry, the workflows where everything is getting manufactured. Okay. So all of these industries have lot of impact when it comes to quality. So if you look at a typical, let us say, manufacturing plant, okay, where you're producing something, a lot of manual has moved to automation. Okay, if you look at something like how we do what am I trying to say? I'm trying to talk about industries and why is it that why they've moved from manual to automation. Every industry has gone into that direction. Even self-driverless cars, right? They have gone from manual to automation. You've got your Google Homes, your Alexas, and so on. A lot of manual to automation. You've got your e-commerce where you are doing everything with one click. All right. So one click shoppings. So again, a lot of manual to automation. All of these processes have evolved manual to automation, and quality control has been the underlying factor. All right. If any of these cars keep crashing, or if you see e-commerce not delivering or payments not going through, they become very tricky, team. So you need to ensure that each of these are quality control. So the whole pretext is automation is ruled by these three keywords. So if I have to take a manual process and convert that into automation, then for me, the three key parameters, team, always keep in the back of your mind are these: efficiency, reusability, accuracy. Anything must fall in under these three equations. That is how we can effectively move from manual process to an automated process. Oopsie. All right. Now let's go back to this Excel sheet. For writing a test case, we talk a lot about how we write it. First, let's talk about writing it as a manual test case, team. How do we write a manual test scenario to begin with? Are there any questions? Let me quickly look. Great, nothing. Any questions, team? Let me know, please, while the session is on. So before I talk about the manual QA process and how it's going to work, where was I? Fresh paint crashed again on me. Okay, let's choose some other color. What are we talking about? A process. Okay. So any manual test case, what does it typically have, team? What are the ingredients for it? The ingredients are very simple, team. We want to identify them a test case. So we give it an identification and we say there's a test case ID to it. All right. The next one would be every test case is nothing but a user story. So let me show you, for example, this application called AnyAuth. Okay, this one I'm going to use it because you can do a lot of automation around it. We have control on it. You're just doing the web UI automation on AnyAuth team. So if you go to anyauth.com and let us say there is a user story that we want to talk about, and that user story is something like, let me write here. is basically go to eniot.com, alt enter to, I want to log in to eniot.com. All right, let's say simple login process. So we're going to click on Eniot. These are the steps, team. Any manual testing process, you have to note down these steps as to what is it that you're doing. Three, I'm doing 2 extra tabs. There we go. Okay, here enter email ID. So we're just basically log in. Then 4, I'm going to, so let us say I'm going to use something fictitious, nothing valid. All right, edwardcasa.com. And then I'll enter a very fictitious password out here. 123 123 something. All right. And I'm going to click on sign in. So the application definitely should not allow me to sign in. Rather, it should give me a message saying that user not recognized or so on. So this is a user story, team. Now, will users actually in real life experience this? Absolutely, yes. If you mistype something, you do get it. Get an error message for incorrect login. Okay, and I'm going to say this is the error message, whatever we could copy from there. Now, this is basically a scenario that you need to understand. What is this scenario all about? A user's experience, a story as to how they go about. One second, this requires me to use. Something's wrong with the mouse. I'm trying to expand this and my mouse is resisting. Give me a second, team. I'm trying to quickly find a wireless mouse which was lying somewhere right here. I'm gonna take quickly. Is there an easier way without me having to do all that? I don't want to waste your time onto this. Let me see. Ah, there you go. I use my fingers and that's much better now. All right, great. So here we have, ting, ting, ting. Okay. So this is a user story, team, and we typically try and express this in a much more easier way. When I look at this specific user story, the biggest challenge for me is that it is not very clear. So where does it lack? It lacks in the terms that lacks in clarity, especially for someone to replicate. So what can be another QA engineer too? So what do I mean, team? Imagine that you've joined in your team. You're on the day one of working there. You're given a few test cases and you need to talk about what you've written and pass it along to your team members. At that point in time, do you think this kind of a presentation will be enough to talk about a test case and say, this is the user story, this is what I want you to execute and test? No, there are a lot of defects. Like what? Is it really AA.com? Where is click on login? You'll find it on the top right corner or something should be explained, maybe a screenshot. How about login means what? What all information should I enter? Where is my username, password? So that level of clarity is needed, not just for automation testing team, even for manual testing. Hence, what do? We go about writing a test case ID, okay? A test case description that tells me something about it. Then I need to talk about the test step ID itself. Every step will have an ID, and I'll talk about the step details as to what is it that it does. At least so far, so good. when we talk about, why do I get this messages? I don't know how to take this off, team. It's on Google Chrome, is it? Okay. Step details. Then the most important thing in terms of a test case, when we're testing, it's just that what is the result of it? Is it a pass or a fail? It is just like testing any other electronic product or a car or a simple software or a process team. Every of these things that you measure, you must tell, okay, it worked good. No, not okay, it did not work good. That is what you need to consistently mention, team. One second. Where's my home is here. All right. So now if these are my details, then what I will do, team, for every test case ID, and I'm assuming that you have a little bit familiarity with test case and how we write steps and so on. So I'm going to assume that a little bit and go forward, team. But primarily for every test case, to identify it, we have to be smart about it. I can use abbreviations that are standardly defined within my team, within my org for my project. And that is what I would follow. So for example, as an example, I would suggest that for this, I will talk about, this is any org. So short form here is fine. And I'll just call this as incorrect or login underscore 001. Okay. Test case description is very simple. Incorrect login. What happens when we log in incorrectly? So now comes the test step ID, team. Why is this test steps essential? If I write just 4 steps in the general sense of quality control, and I personally am a Six Sigma professional certified team. I've done a lot of Six Sigma projects, been involved in them. It is at the end of it, it is always about, we try and do a root cause analysis. Okay. A root cause analysis is trying to determine what went wrong. And most of the times, it is only because the process has either not been specified in a step-by-step manner as a checklist, or the user, the executive or engineer has not performed their duties according to that process. Majority that is born what it has been, team. So, and hence IT signifies that you be more precise, very, very detail oriented. That's what the information technology world tells us. So I have to now expand the simple 4 steps into a much more elaborate way. Yes, we may think, why are we taking so much effort to write something simple? That's because this simplicity that you are doing by skipping steps will actually lead to errors later. There's no clarity in it. And we cannot move to automation. That's why we're doing it in this approach. Now, we will have about roughly, let us say, 6, 7 steps. Oopsie. Control C. So my test case ID and description are going to be common for all of them. So I'm going to copy. But here comes my test steps: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 so far. Okay. Now my step details come here. I know this. Let's take this into a different Excel. Manual test cases. Okay, cool. All right, so I have these. Let me just do that. Okay. That's my test case ID, my description, my step ID. Now my details, I want it lot larger. All right, great. So Now, let's see, team. Each step, we're going to break it down. We're going to see how this looks at. The first thing, team, what we do is we're saying just go to the application, right? But the most important thing is which browser? Open browser. That is my action, team, what I want to do, my step, or what step I want to take, what action I want to do. What would be the next action that I would want to perform? I want to then go to this website, right? So for opening browser, how do I mention which browser to open? I need to provide some additional information, some kind of a data for it to be able to know what to do. So insert two columns. Is this? I don't know if I need anything else just in case. So I definitely need something called as a data. So in data, I'm going to say opening the browser, and I'll say this time Chrome. That's my browser that I'll open. Visit application under test. How do we visit the application under test? Basically, all I need, I know the Chrome browser is there. Now I need the domain name, anyout.com. All right. What is the next action, team? We are clicking on this login button. Click on login button. So for this, I don't have any specific data. I just have to perform the action. Once I click on the login button, it is taking me to the next page, orange, right? So now out here, I'm going to enter the username and password. Enter username. What should be the username? Anything at this time, because I'm just doing a negative test case, basically that it should fail for me. Enter password, which again is random. And after doing those two, we are clicking on sign in. Click on sign in button. For this again, I don't need any data provided, team. So once I enter this information and click on sign in, expecting this message to come. Okay. Error message must show. Okay. And I'm just going to type this in. This is the message that I want there to be seen. So once I'm done with it, then I'm going to close the browser. Just basically close browser. Should I log out before I close the browser? No, not in this case. Why? Because I have not even logged in yet. So for me, 8 steps are sufficient. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these 3 steps. All right. Right click should work. Delete these. Okay, great. So this is my test case, team. Now look at what we did here to begin with as a simple user story. Of course, you can put diagrams and so on, but for something that can be more easy as to very systematically understand, here is something. 8 steps to see an incorrect login. Now, this is what we do in a manual testing, team. When we talk about automation testing, there are specific things that come into place. Uh-oh. Let's say take red. What was I saying when it comes to manual? Okay. So for a manual testing, if I send this test case to any user, they're absolutely fine to perform these actions because it tells me what to do and it has got my data, and I'll go about filling the result for each of these. And if any step fails, I'll say my test case itself failed. Now, how about automating such a process? Any automation testing tool, team, all right, or any automation tool does nothing but one thing. It understands the manual testing process as much as it can. Once it gets to understand that, then it'll kind of go about doing that. Till it understands it, it cannot do it. And the only two questions that manual testing typically asks around are, what do you want me to do, and where that needs to be performed. All right. Now, why is it different like this? Let's talk about something like a Google Voice. Google Voice, is it Google Home? Sorry. You know Google Home? It's a simple device. You say, okay, Google, how's the weather? Okay, Google, play a song, or okay, Google, read the news. It's going to go about doing it, following instructions. For it, it is just recognizing your voice commands. All right, and that's fine. But why in an automation testing tool, what should we do? That's a voice command. All right. Why does where become important? I'll tell you very simply, team. Why is this process easy for a manual test engineer to understand? Because it says open browser, I will go and open Chrome. It's easy. It knows that I'm saying that, hey, go and go to this website called anyout.com and click on login. That's the third option. So these things we know historically and we are able to do it. But team, if you teach a 3-year-old who has not used a website, or a 6-year-old who's not used a website, maybe they're awesome at playing games, but they cannot read the words, let's say login and so on. What do they then do? How would they then do it? Are these smaller generation or people who do not understand specific things, are they able to do it? Someone who's not been in the line of software at all, let's say someone who's been always in the farming industry or so on, how would they know? If a human to human understanding can be a little tough, a human to machine learning can be even tougher. And that is what we kind of do very effectively within Selenium. So it's what we will accomplish, team, with Selenium IDE is the fact that how we go about the manual process to automation process and effectively manage frameworks, team. Okay, what is the action and where is the portion where it has to be done? Okay, other IT professionals know if login is here, this is login. Then if I have to enter the username, then I have to enter it here. And if I enter the password, I have to enter it here. If I have to go, what happens with the invalid user login, this is what happens. So all this becomes very, very important, team. Why we are moving, or how we can move from manual to automation. The only two key things that I want you to remember at this point in time are the fact that, let me take a black. What is this what do, and what does this where do? How do we link it to our Selenium? All right. Now let's get into Selenium, team. So just showing you on a successful login, team, this is what you would see on the application. Let me erase these drawings. So you would start with something called as a dashboard. A dashboard basically is a representation of what you've created so far, what are all present in it. Then we have test planning, where we set up tests, we build reusable components, and we can export the step test if we want. Then we talk about executing run, at which point in time we select which specific test cases I want to use. And then once I select that, I also have to choose specific sets of test data. So if I say yes to it, and then if I go about, so correct user data, incorrect. So this is what this application does, team. And once I save it, I can see all of these runs created that are out here. At this point, what you would do is download the desktop jar file, install it on your local machine, Windows, Mac, or Linux. It's a Java jar file. Install it, and you'll be able to execute these tests automatically. All right. It's just a small side story of what this tool does. We're not too worried about it right now, but what we're interested is, how we've taken that application for a sample. Now, the next thing you need to do, team, in terms of your learning curve is go to seleniumhq.org. seleniumhq.org. Okay, so that becomes your home team to make sure that you get anything latest, any latest developments, downloads, and updates that you need. All right, all of you must be able to get things from here. Now, what we need to understand is there are two portions to Selenium, as you can see, IDE and WebDriver. All right, IDE is something that we are focusing immediately, which would take us the 3 to 4, 5 days initially. Okay, when it comes to WebDriver is what we do a lot of our main trainings on. So for example, we finished recently the Selenium Java WebDriver, building all the different types of automation frameworks available as a video library. And we'll continue to do after this training, we'll go very deep into Selenium WebDriver, maybe with C# or Python, depending on what we want to add to the library. Okay, cool. Now, what is it that I want from seleniumhq.org? This is your headquarters, like I said for Selenium. So anything that you need to download and work on with, here is where we go. So let's go straight to our downloads page here, team. In the downloads page, you would look at the Selenium WebDriver and a lot of other things out here. You will also have something for the IDE. If you scroll a little down, you'll see Selenium IDE. This is a simple extension or a plugin to your browser, Chrome or Firefox, in helping you to do some of this automation testing, team. So there are the previous versions, but let's take this latest version. At this point, let me see what version I have of Selenium. So once installed as plugin, team, you will see it once you click on these three dots as one of these options here. Oops, I opened Catalan. Let me close this again, and Selenium. It says version 3.1.1. 3.111. 3.11. Now that's a good version, but let's see what's here. Does it say down? Nothing. Let's go click on it for Chrome. So it's even in Chrome, you can actually go here maybe to more tools, yes, and extensions, and you can search for extensions. But we found this extension going to Selenium IDE, sorry, seleniumhq.org. Okay, there you are. So it does, where is the version number? Reviews report. Oh, same one. I have that. Updated 1st July 2019. So that's good. It's not a pretty old one. Um, what is important, team, is as these versions get updated, primarily to tackle the security features on the browsers. Browsers tend to always discourage automation tools or scripts to run on them. One is definitely user security point, all the information point of view, but also more importantly, it can crash your servers significantly, a smaller to a large version of virus. Anyways, so we here, now what we do, team, let's simplify. I'm going to close out all the Chrome browsers for a while. Let's keep this, that's fine. But I'm going to open a new Chrome browser, right click, new Chrome, new window. And ding, 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 what do I want to do this on this? Okay, yeah. So I'm going to open Selenium IDE, team. Now, once you install the latest one, you would notice out here. So in my version, it said it was already installed, so I didn't have to do anything. It was two more steps for you. Simple. On your Google Chrome extensions, like I found it, you can go there and get it going. So here are the options, team. It used to be much more simpler in the earlier Selenium IDE versions, where to start quick, we could do a few things, but nonetheless, there is a lot we could do. Okay, so most important, record a new test in a new project, open an existing project, create a new project, close Selenium IDE. All right. Now, what is it that Selenium tries to do? It tries to understand what a human does on a web-based application and replicate it. Now, to understand that, you can write your own scripts using Selenium IDE. You can write your own scripts using Selenium WebDriver, or you can let the tool itself record and learn by itself. All right. We're going to try the third option, which is actually the easiest, first, most important initial one, where let's say record a new test in a new project. It should maybe now ask me, great, a project name. So I'll say NEOT R23.6 is my project name. Okay, so I'll say okay. Set your project's base URL. Now I'll talk more about base URL team, but it's nothing about something. There's nothing keyword about base. It's just a URL, your home URL. Once you're there, you can navigate anywhere you want, but you don't have to keep repeating it. So it's there as a variable. So I'm going to put it as https://neot.com. All right. And then actually we'll start straight with orange and says slash start recording. So what it should do is launch that website. Oops, I'm logged in already. But why did it go there? Why didn't it open our Selenium IDE? Selenium WebDriver would open almost like an incognito window. I split my screens, team, and I'm going to do something stupid here. Just log out of it. It's going to keep recording something which I don't need. I need this later. I'm going to say, I'm going to delete this. So right click, delete. All right. What is important, team, is as soon as we create a project, this is my UI for Selenium IDE. Again, this has taken a change for a long period of time. I've seen this version personally growing from one of the first to where it is. But predominantly everything remained the same. Look at it as three segments, team, three sections. First is very simple, like a folder organizer here. All your tests, you can put them. Second is your main control center, this entire block where you are focusing on generating and building this automation tests. Then the third one is the window at the bottom called log and reference. Log basically starts giving you feedback of how your tests are being executed. Reference talks about more of a help guide as to what commands work for what purpose and how you got to use it. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about command, target, and value. But before that, let it be smart enough and record something. All right. So I'm going to close this, erase all these drawings. And I logged out. Good. So I'll close this application. Now I'm going to create a new test team. So I set test. Okay, plus add a new test. And this test has the same name as what was it that I gave in the Excel? AA underscore login 001. Why did I give login 001? I thought maybe for login itself there'll be 1,000 test cases. Sounds ridiculous, but maybe I'll just put 01. If I did it here, then I want to change it here too. And that's where we need to be very careful, team. Let's not lazy around when the process is critical. Otherwise, this breaks things significantly. All right. And good news for test engineers team, as you'll see more and more developers coming in who are, not exposed to so many much more younger into it because market demands it. You'll see a lot of defects coming up, team. It's very tough to stay a good developer, become a good developer instantly. It takes a few years, team. I've observed that keenly. All right, great. Now, those are the same steps we're going to replicate. Now I've created a test case by saying plus. I'm going to click on this record. A record is basically instruction where I'm saying, please go to my base URL. All right. Once it goes to my base URL, then whatever I do as an action on this application will be recorded by my Selenium IDE. And you're seeing this is being done. I know my screens are short, but let me try and hide my taskbar. Lock taskbar. No. Taskbar set. How do I remove this? Okay, then I'll do it later. No. My mouse also, okay, now it's much better. All right, great. So I'm going to now basically put my application and test to the right side and my ID on the left side team. And the reason I'm doing this is we can see what is happening, what is it that it is recording while it is doing so. All right, this is my application and just expanding. Oh, come on. Okay, there you go. I got at least something. So it's generated a few commands, team. See, the three most important things for us are these three columns here: command, target, and value. Okay. All we have to notice is what and how these are getting filled, how this tool starts to understand. So I'm going to click on login, and you would generate one more step getting here saying click CSS equals dot login button. And it says select a different window because it's navigated to a different window. And I'm going to put no, I'm not going to type in that. See how many additional steps it's generating. Blah, blah, blah at blah, blah, blah.com. See, I have to enter a valid email. Otherwise, it would not. And I've entered the password. So for each of these things, doing something in the background. And now I'm going to click on sign in team. So let's look at what this 3.11 version of Selenium IDE does after we've gone through these steps. So it's still signing in, I believe. It's trying to verify at the backend database if this is the right user credentials. And if not, it's going to give us that error message. And now that Selenium IDE is recording, there is something very nice about it. You could simply right click on it and go to Selenium IDE, and you'll see a few commands that you can do, team. In this, all I want to do is verify my text. Okay, so that becomes my last step almost, and I'm done with my recording. So I'm going to close this. So this red button out here is the initiator for start and stop recording. So I have my project under that one test login 01. It's got about 14 steps. My manual test case had fewer steps. But if you see some of this seem, why is it asking to save somewhere else? Okay, save it. But where do I save it? Let me put it on the desktop. It's easy for us. This PC. Let's go to desktop. What's this? Versus. Okay, that's fine. You'll understand. In that, I'm saving this. All right. So that's saved. So what we have done is we have given an instruction to Selenium IDE saying, please go and understand what is it that we're doing on the application and put those in your own way of understanding. And that happened to this record button. As soon as I hit the record, it went to this URL, which is my base URL. From there, we navigated all this. Now comes the question of playing it back. What do I mean by playback? Playback is nothing but the ability for Selenium IDE to show us what has happened. So for that, I can click on these buttons to make this happen to you. If I have more than one test, then I can use this feature to run all the tests. This is one for running only the current test case. A test is nothing but a current test, a test case team. This, what is this icon? I don't even know. And here is the test execution speed. It can be very fast, or you could make it a little bit more easier, slow. Fast is good, but when we have to observe what is going on, we want to set it to a little low speed. Now I'm going to click on this run current test and let's observe what happens to the browser. So it's going to navigate from anyone.com and it is doing some operations, and as it goes about doing it, on the left side you'll notice that command getting into green team. So primarily, any step that is working correctly or any step works correctly becomes a green. If that step fails for any reason that it could not do it, Selenium could not work it back, then it gives us a red. Okay, anything with verification will be loud green or dark green, where we are saying, hey, I want you to assert or verify. I think even for verify, it'll be dark green. So the 14th is the last one. So it's clicked on it. Now it's kind of waiting for the application to return. It has performed all the steps very nicely, team. Though it has done it slow, it has taken plenty of time. And do you notice this log feature, team, on the left side? As it is executing that, you would see that this log is talking about each and every step. Nice little log, team. It is talking about the time when it started and how it is progressing with each step, how long it has taken, and what has happened to the execution, and finally the overall status. So if anything is wrong within a test case, you would immediately see it going red. So everything is right out here, and verified text is the one where which also passed. So it actually got this text. Now, what if I delete something or change here? Verify my email or password, and I rerun this test. I'm expecting this to now fail. And the primary reason being that, hey, you know what? It's not going to be the actual text there. So let's see. So I'm going to run this test again, but I've just made it faster. With that speed, at least, what happens is ding, 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 ding. We get to see quickly. Let's see what's happening. The application is slow by itself. So let automation tool run as fast as it can. I am now anticipating that the last step must fail. And so this is primarily what it does as a record and run, which we never actually replicate or do significantly in the real world. The reason is automation frameworks. The reason is how much control we want to have, how much flexibility we want to have on these executions. All right. So I think we're on step 13, still clicking on it. I'm not moving my mouse around, team, so that it doesn't interfere. And you can see, there you go. And that failed. So if I copy this and paste it, can I right click and say, oops, can I just click on this and do something? Can't I duplicate this test case? I can right click here. Okay, cool. This is done. Open project, save project. Why would you ask me again? Why would you ask me again? Sorry. It should remember or save it, or it should say save as. See? Sorry, once. All right, great, team. So that's about it for today. Tomorrow we're going to talk about what the command does, what the target does, how they're working, and what is this new common column called as value. All right. So command is nothing but a test name as to what test step name as to what is it that we want to do. Okay, the step detail. The info here, sorry, the value here is nothing but the test data or this data column. All right. The target is something we have not done yet, and that we will add here, and we'll call this as element ID. Okay, let's write it element ID, and that we'll have to put in tomorrow. All right, team, that's it from my side. Any questions for me, please? Save as into recent desktop, Selby S, day one. All right, great. See you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Bye now. Bye all.